After 2023, when the logistic and warehouse industry struggled with rising rents and vacancies, warehouses are entering a new year with good prospects. Today, my guest is Pawel Nosal, Director of the Logistics and Industrial Department at Colliers, and we will take a deep dive into 2024. And let's see whether it will bring more stability and predictability. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, of course, before we will deep dive into 2024, we have to take a look at 2023, which was a little bit challenging year. So if you could tell us more about how would you summarize this past year and what are the outcomes?
Yeah, in the first place, thank you very much for inviting me here. Nice to be here.
My pleasure.
And challenging is a very good word to describe last year. After the tremendous years 2021 and 22, which were very growing and the demand was really significant. After that, the 2023 brought a big slowdown. We are estimated it was about 30% year on year in the total demand on the industrial logistics market. And it was mostly caused by the fact that 2020, 21, 22, pandemic time, the e-commerce was enormously growing at that time. That was out of the blue, that nobody could ever predict that fact. And that really brought some turbulences on the regular curve of growth. And regarding last year, despite of the fact that the demand was not as high, we recorded a few quite significant big transactions on the market. Big transactions, I mean above 100,000 square meters each. Maybe I'm not supposed to call the names of the clients, but everybody on the market knows it. But we are happy about that because we also took part in that few of the transactions. And last year, the demand was mostly driven by the logistics providers, followed by the production. And before we started the discussion, we mentioned that there is a lot of clients coming from the Far East countries, mentioning South Korea and China. And the third group of the clients would be the end users, we call them, including the retailers. Regarding the whole volume of the modern warehouse space in Poland, that already exceeded 30 million square meters in the Q3 last year. And I remember when I started the business 16 years ago, was not exceeding even 6 million square meters. So it grew 5 times already. Regarding the vacancy rate, due to the fact that we had a lot of supply, new development, in the year 2021, 2022, and in the year 2023, we came with a big surplus of the space, and in the same time, we faced the decreasing demand from the market, so it caused the vacancy rate grow. It grew to 7.7% again in the third quarter. 2023. I'm referring to the third quarter because right now we're just in the process of preparing the annual report. So whenever it's ready,
okay.
Sure. Right now we'll be giving the data until the third quarter. And speaking of the vacancy rate, it's important to underline that would not incorporate all the subleases that are available on the market. It means that we had the customers, the clients in 2021, 22, they took the space, in many cases for e-commerce demand, but that time has ended and shrank a bit, that's demand coming from e-commerce, so they have some space available right now. So they're very inclined to sublease it to someone else. And this is unfortunately not incorporated any kind of the reports. So that's why we are thinking the actual vacancy rate would be even as high as 9 or even 10%.
Okay. And when talking about 2023 and the difficulties, of course, it may also be referring to the fact of the very tough macroeconomic environment.
As we all know, in 2022, after the outbreak of the war in Ukraine, a lot has changed on the construction market. So we faced the increasing cost of the construction materials. The general contractors were less available. inclined to undertake the new development because they had a lot to do. And the third thing was that the lead times of the new project was very long. So we were talking in the half of the 2022 even about 15 months before the new development could be completed. Right now, actually, in 2023, the situation has changed dramatically for a good direction, so that all the lead times have shortened down to 9 months. Obviously, taking into consideration that we have all the permits in place, all the general contractors are more available to undertake the new projects, and the construction costs have fallen down. So this is a good sign and good prognostic for the future, for the next coming years.
So it means that the industry was actually quite adjusted quite fast, to be honest, to the new circumstances.
Quite fast. Another thing I would like to underline would be the rent rates, because probably you would like to ask me about this, and it's very of interest of our customers. So we've been noticing the stabilization of the rent rates starting from actually last year. The thing is that we see on the market a differentiation between the prices on the old premises and the new ones. So right now you cannot compare the old building with the new development. The prices could range even up to 30%. And regarding the capital market, the capital market of industrial and logistics in Poland for year 2023 was exceeding 800 million euros, but again that was half of what we recorded in the year 2022.
Well, I think in general that was the case on all the markets, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Wait and see, readjusting the strategies and looking how it will happen also with the stabilization of the macroeconomic environment, a little bit also geopolitical factors that also are very important here and now, especially for Poland. And actually, I believe that also for your sector, but maybe for this one, we'll come back in a minute. But you started about, outdated stock and modern stock, which is very significant topic, I guess, like in all other industries, ESG. And now we are, starting 2024 with this requirement that we've heard a lot already in the past years in terms of, readjusting the portfolio to new environmental requirements, much more also on the social side. So how do you see it in practice?
Well, it's a very good question. So, some people when they're talking about the ESG, they're smiling, including myself. So I believe like the personal ESG strategy, the philosophy. However, we've been talking about the ESG on my business practice for years. So 10 years ago, started talking about how to be environmental friendly, how to adjust the building. But it was only talking. When it came to the real figures, real offers, nothing really happened, because it was the customers at the end of the day would say, well, it's too expensive, we're not prepared. Or in case of 3PL, our customers are not really willing to pay for that. And what was already implemented in the retail or office sector, now we're seeing being implemented in the industrial. Now it's real. Now we have the serious conversation, and it's happening already. Even in case of some of the 3PL, so logistic providers, strategies, you can see that they have a must. It's must to implement the ESG strategy, and for the new project, it's a must to realize them in the new ESG or carbon neutral buildings. So it's really happening.
But you said that earlier it was the factor that actually, maybe the investors were not prepared to pay more, and also not the tenants were not prepared to pay more. But is it changing, or now also due to the fact that, well, in the past years the rents grow significantly at the end of the day? So putting this on top, like you said, 30% in price in terms of the outdated stock and maybe the modern one?
No, I wouldn't say it's because the prices went up before, so now they can somehow include it right now. I would rather say that's the parallel process of increasing awareness among the tenants, also the EU pressures, EU
Registration,
regulations, the Polish regulations, and some companies, the big companies, big brands, they require from all their subcontractors, their business partners to be ecological, to be keeping to the ESG principles.
So when they are looking for new space for them, they are actually putting in their guidelines the fact that it has to be compliant.
Yes, I would say I don't have any kind of negotiations without asking about the ESG aspects right now. None. Even doesn't matter. It's logistics or it's production. It's always somehow, and we're talking about it, and it's more and more important. And we already have the solution for that. The good example for that is that in the beginning of 2023, the first warehouse was awarded with the outstanding BREEAM certificate. Then obviously that was followed by the others also with the outstanding. So that's a good example that it's really working. It's not just talking, it's really happening. And there is no way we could stop this trend.
But do you think it's more like because of course the awareness of this ESG and now CSRD directive coming into place from this year, whether it's among European markets or like you mentioned, you also do a lot of transaction with Asian investors. Do they also see this trend that is in place in Europe, or that's not that important for them?
Well, I would say the Far Eastern companies, they still focus on the price and the availability. So the ESG is more the European concern yet, unless they will be forced to implement some of the solutions in the warehouses.
Okay, but also mentioning the Asian investors, it's mean that actually this another thing that we were discussing for years, which is nearshoring, is also something visible now in the market. So do you see this setting down? Yes, in Poland. Poland is benefiting out of this trend.
Actually, Poland is and will be benefiting from both. So it's nearshoring and offshoring. So near, it means the companies who are really located normally or originated in Far East, but they want to be closer to their final customers. For example, the big electronics from South Korea or Japan or China, they want to locate their premises, their plants in Poland, so they can service their subcontractors here in Poland or in the surrounding countries. So that's one trend. And the second trend is the Western companies, Western European companies, Germany or Scandinavia. They want to cut their costs, and they would love to settle down in Poland to save on the labor costs, on the rental rates, etc. Plus, they still find Poland very attractive location because we have very reliable labor force, well educated, and we have quite still comparable rental rates. And comparing to both, to the Central European countries and the Western countries.
Well, okay, so we started a little bit talking about the future. So let's take a look on the forecast for 2024. Like you are looking at the figures and the trends that will shape the markets in the upcoming months. So what are they?
Let me pull out the magic ball so I can see. I don't know about the big future, but for time being, and maybe this year, what we see, the supply of the new coming space has already increased starting from the Q3 last year. So the developers, they're building, and a big chunk of it, it's still built on the speculative basis. It means that they don't have the client for it, or in the point when they started the construction, they didn't have the client for the part of the some part, obviously not for all, but for some part of the building, and we see it happening. And what we see also from the beginning of this year is the number of clients, foreign clients, being interested in Poland again. They're sending us inquiries. There is a little, maybe limited, but still number of tenders on the market among the 3PL providers. But to be honest, that there are not too many new ones, rather the old ones that stretch out to this year already. Regarding the vacancy rate, though, we're expecting that not to exceed 10%. But on the long run, we're hoping that it would come back to its normal, healthy level of 4 up to 6% of the vacancy rates. And regarding the rates, we think that will remain as it is, because we don't see many reasons for the growth nor for the drop down. But again, there will be a big gap between the old premises and the new ones, and
yeah, that's what I mentioned, that maybe this year will bring stability, because I think that the moment to come up from the tenants' perspective and investors or developers, to find this balance between the proper rents that are acceptable by both sides, it took a while at the market. So
yes, but we need to keep in the same time, we need to keep in mind that even the owners of the old premises, they're just not keeping that. They're still trying to refurbish them, to just renew them, to put some extras, so they can really catch up to the newest ones. They can compete with them, and they're most of the time they're owned by the big funds. They have some budgets for that, so it's happening. So still, the Polish stock is very new. It's one of the newest in Europe. And just the outdated stock, so the buildings over 10, 15 or 20 years, that's really minority of the whole amount.
And what about locations around Poland? Yes, because usually the strongest part was the western one. Is something changes?
Well, it always changes. So quarter to quarter, there are some hot places, like everybody want to be there, and then it changes. Still, the Western Poland is attractive. Among all the Asian clients, they're all looking for a lot
being
of them
closer to the western.
Yes, to the western border. So they would be asking for, please give me the offers for the half of Poland locations. And while the local clients, logistic providers, they would ask for like different remote locations across Poland. So even covering the smaller locations like Białystok, Rzeszów, Lublin, Bydgoszcz, Szczecin, they're also playing a big role. So right now it's hard to really determine which are the hottest spots on the map.
So it's more about being close to in general the road infrastructure, rail infrastructure.
Absolutely,
in terms
of, and good for Poland. We have developed a lot for the last 10, 15 years, so we cannot really complain about the road infrastructure.
In your recent report, actually, you are also mentioning some sectors that will drive the growth in the sector. So this is very interesting. If you can tell us more.
So first one, I would call the e-commerce again. I know there people are skeptical about e-commerce, but we need to remember that e-commerce is still on its growth path. Just the 2-3 years that was something extraordinary. They're enormous years. They're blooming. But if we see the long run curve, it's still growing, and it will be, because I cannot really imagine myself or anybody just coming back totally to the traditional retailing. I think we stay online. We have new generation. They were born that's all they know. It's just buying things online. And I think it remains like this. So maybe we will not see the 3-digit growth figures as we saw in 2020 and 21, but it will be still picking up, and there's a big chance for Poland. Another sector I would call would be the automobile and electromobility sector. Some people may not realize, but Poland has become the second largest car batteries producer in the world after China. So we know there are already plans for new plants to be transplanted from elsewhere, all the new ones to be set up in Poland. And I think it's a big chance, because it's not only one company coming, but they need their subcontractors. So there's big networks of new companies coming to Poland. I think it will be happening. It is happening for the last years, but it requires a lot of money, a lot of funds. The potential investors are looking for some incentives from the government side. They're getting ones. And what's crucial in the first place, I would call the timing. It's not happening in a blink of the eye. It takes time, it takes years. So we're in the process of this, but the results will be seen for the last several years. So I'm thinking positive into the future.
And there is another one connected also to offshore, right? And also to building the renewable energy sector, especially in the North Coast.
Yes. That's the growing infrastructure of the seaports in Poland. I think it's important. It's quite underestimated yet, but I think with the development of the ports in Świnoujście and further development in Gdańsk, it will be picking up on its importance as well.
So also the north will become a hub maybe in the upcoming future.
Hopefully, yes. Hopefully, also all depends on on the political situation. We know what we have in the issues with Ukraine, Russian war. We have another conflict in the Palestine and Gaza Strip. Another one it's in Yemen, which may cause big logistics problem because a big route, the sea route between Europe and Asia goes next to Yemen. And if it will not be calmed down, it may impact also the logistics prices, the gas prices, oil prices. So it's all we are all connected.
Yeah, but actually, from the perspective of the Nordics, actually, they are much more willing to get connected through the south-north corridors with land in Poland, in the Baltic states, and so on. Because,
Yes.
like Finland, they are connected by land through Russia. Yes, so for them it's quite a challenge. So they are looking for alternatives, which is maybe also opening some opportunities for the future. Okay, so just to summarize, I understand that this year actually might bring stability and a little bit of optimism. I think also now in Davos, when we hear of the discussions about macroeconomic environment, I think the mood is also much more optimistic, which means also that investors will be much more willing not to wait and see, but actually to act. And I guess that's what from you are saying, Poland can benefit from this approach.
But there is a big amount of tremendous work to be done this year. So we'll be probably easing out towards the end of the year and next year, but it will not be easy, that for sure. But we're prepared for that. That's why we're here.
Fantastic. Thank you very much
Thank
for the
you very much.
conversation.
Thank you very much.